And shares of Apple trading higher today. A couple headlines here to watch. The company releasing an iOS update to fix the overheating issue on the iPhone 15 models, and Apple receiving a downgrade from KeyBank on iPhone sales concerns. So on the software issue, obviously you're an investor, you prefer to hear the software issue. There was some worry maybe it was a hardware issue. That would have been a much bigger deal. The downgrade is interesting. That is a rare thing, Julie, we see from the street, a downgrade of Apple. But it sounds like bottom line, the analyst saying valuation, he argues, not attractive. U.S. sales, he says, likely to struggle. Of course, U.S. big market for Cook's company. And competition from local rivals like Huawei in China, he sees as a challenge. I don't know if I buy that last argument, only because often people that come into the Apple ecosystem, they tend to be pretty satisfied and loyal. It's sticky. They don't tend to leave. But regardless, it is a rare thing to see a downgrade like this. But again, Apple shares actually edging higher in today's trade.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem to be affecting it from that perspective. Just looking at the analyst coverage of the stock. So this is a downgrade, we should make clear, to sector perform, the equivalent of or sector weight, I should say, according to their ratings, which is the equivalent of a hold rating.
A meh.
So a meh.
Yeah.
I like the meh rating here. So there are 14 holds on the stock, 34 buys, 4 sells actually on Apple here. And it's interesting that he's also talking about the estimates appearing what he says are full from a top and bottom line basis here. That is, people are, if they're not over optimistic, they're, just about in line with reality here, which doesn't necessarily imply a lot more upside for the stock. But we'll see what comes around the next time they report. Speaking of reports, let's talk about Tilray. That stock is trading lower, but it's pared its earlier losses. Right now, just down about 0.25% after reporting first quarter results this morning. Tilray reported a 15% increase in net revenue to about $177 million. Also saying its net loss narrowed to $56 million, but that loss was still wider than analysts estimated, which is one of the things that have been pressuring the stock here. So Tilray, an interesting story here. The company also just recently closed on the acquisition of 8 beverage brands from Anheuser-Busch, including some beer, but also an energy drink, Highball. I don't know if you know that one. It's diversified into craft brewing. That's something that it's been doing over a little bit of time.
But my big question for you. So I get it. Revenue popped 15%. Yes. The loss narrowed, not as much as what the street wanted. My big question, cucumbers. What is going on with the cucumbers talk?
So I was reading through the conference call, and they kept talking about vegetables and then mentioned cucumbers.
Right.
So it seems that in some of their facilities in Canada, which is where they grow their cannabis, that the utilization is not necessarily 100% at all the factories. So in those factories, and it's unclear to me if they're growing or leasing out the space, but cucumbers is indeed one of the crops that they're
I think you got to get a Yahoo Finance camera to the cucumber farm. That's good stuff.